Ladies and gentlemen, I am known as Mr. Vicious. Remo Vinci!
What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Vicious, Remo Vinci, and we are back with another interview. And guess what? I get to do the interview this time. And I'm interviewing my main man, my fellow Dro Bro, one of my longtime brothers in rhyme, brothers in crime also. SoulDouja, say what up, Doge.
What up, everybody? It's your boy SoulDouja. This is Mo Doja production.
Oh, Doja.
Throwback. Hey, Throwback Thursday.
Yeah, bud, you're busting it old school today. And you know what? Just because you used to call me the Godfather, like I said in the episode yesterday, or the interview we did yesterday, I had to wear my Godfather shirt for you today. So,
I wore my Colorado shirt.
I saw that. See, we just representing today. That's what it's about. That's what we do, right?
But I'm in New Mexico now.
It's all good. You gotta expand the roots, which is actually where I would love to start this out from, because we kind of started that with me yesterday on my interview. So I would also like to get that same kind of thing from you, because I don't really know, to be honest with you. You kind of bounced around a little bit, and I know there's a little New Mexico, there's a little Colorado, and there's a little California. So why don't you let me know and let the people know, where the heck are you from, and where did you grow up at?
I always like to say, you know how like you call a dog a mutt because they're have different breeds in them?
Yeah.
So I like to say I'm a mutt because I'm not really from nowhere. So this is how the story goes. I was born San Diego, California, on a naval base in a naval hospital, which is torn down now. But lived there for about a year or so, and then my dad and my mom split up. So my mom went to Florida to live with her dad and mom. So we literally, I mean, I don't remember none of this. I was really small, baby back then.
Yeah.
But we literally moved across the country, lived over there. You know, I was running around with alligators and stuff. So my parents decided to move back to Texas, El Paso. And I had some pretty crazy. Well, El Paso was pretty crazy. A lot of learned life lessons learned. I mean, it's still pretty wild, but we moved to El Paso, and I lived there from about my youngest memories to about fourth grade.
Oh,
Fourth
so you
grade,
remember quite a bit of Texas then.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I have a lot of memories about Texas. Yeah.
Well, give me a little bit of your upbringing in Texas, because I didn't know nothing about Texas.
El Paso was crazy, bro. Like we lived in like some of the poorest parts of the city. Um, that's where my brother was born at the time too. I was blessed with my little baby brother. It was pretty rough over there. Like we had to make sure like you were indoors, and like when sun was setting, you had to be indoors with your house locked because the gangs were so bad and the kidnappings and stuff that people would yeah, especially for children. They kidnap.
Yeah.
I put that in a song too, like you know about the kidnapping, and I mean kidnapping still is a very big thing to this day. But
Yeah.
yeah, I remember like a few times my mom would be like, "Oh, hurry up, we gotta get back before the dark come, you know, for the dark and blah blah blah."
Uh,
A kind of a funny story, but I mean not so funny. But you know, I took dare class when I was really young, so I was walking my dog in El Paso, and I saw a needle. And so I said, "Oh, I'm gonna turn this in and get a reward because, I said I just learned about these in Dare." So I
yeah.
didn't touch it with my hands, but I used my dog's leash. I was walking my dog, and at the end of the road, there was fucking needles everywhere. So I used my dog's leash and I grabbed the needle, and here I am walking my little wiener dog back to the house with the leash with the needle. And then I went in there and I was like, Mom, will I get a reward? Oh man, my mom smacked the shit out of me, threw it in the trash can. It was like, no, that's not how it works, Like, but it was,
Oh,
but yeah, I was just, I mean, like people at the end of the block were, shooting up and stuff. And there was another memory. We were like in like some like projects, basically. We used to go and peep in the door at the neighbors across the street, because some guy took a shotgun and blew his head off, and we
Oh
would
my
peek
God.
in, huh?
I said, oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude. And as kids, we would peek in the window, and you could see the hole in the wall,
Oh,
where he shot himself, and hey, I dare you to go look through the window. No, I dare you, and we, it's kind of reminding me of that when I down the road I saw that movie, The Boys in the Hood. Hey, you want to see a dead body? We didn't
yeah,
see no body, but we'd be like, hey, you want to see a where he killed himself? And we saw that stuff,
yeah.
and yeah, like I said, El Paso is pretty wild, dude. I have a lot of pretty wild memories there. Like, yeah.
Sounds like it. So,
What about
you were there till about fourth grade, you said?
yeah, about fourth grade, and then I moved here to Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, also known as Hot Springs. Um, I stayed here from about fourth to seventh grade, and that's when I really started getting like mischief ways, like kind of being a class clown, just a little jerk kid, I guess, like there was like stuff going on at the house that I would kind of act out or whatever. I get in a lot of fights. You kind of get bored here because like um there's not much for the kids. Like like in Denver we had like rec centers. We got e-liches. I remember when I went to Denver, I was like, you get those what do you call them, the passes, where
Yeah.
you could go
Season
as much
passes?
as yeah, I'd get that. My dad would buy it for me every year. Like we didn't have much to do down here. Like the first time I ever smoked weed was out of a can. I was talking about that yesterday. Like I even said that in a song. There was no weed, but when I moved to 303, that's all I would see. Like because I mean, like I said, it was a culture shock when I moved to Denver from here because there's like maybe I think 10,000 people here or something. Maybe I don't know. I have to look it up, but there ain't that much people here, And
You took the
but I
words
have a
right
lot
out
of.
of my mouth. Culture shock.
Mhm. But when I moved here though, my mom's mom was here, and that was kind of the main reason we kind of moved here. And my mom's dad was still alive at the time,
Yeah,
and bro, they taught me a lot of crazy like knowledge, dude, like spiritual knowledge about like my grandma used to tell me ghost stories about like stuff that like happened to her when because they used to prospect, so they ride out on the mountains, gold hunting, horseback. They rode all through Mexico, like all over. This is like way back in the day, like so her and my grandpa they used to ride around. This one story used to always trip me out. Like I like to tell people it, but she said that it was getting late and a storm was coming and they needed somewhere to stay. So this they went to this house and this person answered but it had the lantern like that so they couldn't see the face, but they could see the silhouette of a person. So the person was kind of like because back then it was normal for people to give people strangers shelter or whatever. You know what I mean? People weren't so like
yeah,
messed up or whatever. So the lady welcomed him in, showed him the room. My grandpa and grandma went to bed, and when they woke up, they couldn't find this person. So they're going to town, and they were like, "Well, where'd you guys stay at last night? The storm and blah blah blah." Oh, we stayed at this people's house over here, and they said those people have been dead for like a long time already. About like 20 years or so, and my grandma swears that it was a ghost of them. But the reason why I brought it up is because my grandma would tell me about all these ghosts and like kind of spiritual stories, and it opened me up when I was small. So in New Mexico, I had a lot of like encounters, or I don't know what to say. It was just scary moments when we were a kid. Like some of the Sarah had an experience here too when she lived here with Isaiah too. We'll get into that later. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But we used to see like wild stuff when we were kids. I remember like seeing like I don't know how best to describe it, but it was like a werewolf, bro. Like I mean, it was above the trees, and you could just see his head, like. And my friend seen it, and we were like, "Oh shit!" We ran off, and it was just like it was on the other side of the river. Like we were on the other side, but that thing was. But
Yeah.
like there was just stuff we couldn't explain as kids, that we seen, like and you'd see stuff all around this place, and it's pretty wild times living here.
So it sounds kind of like a what is it, the chupacabra or something, right?
Yeah, for
That
the
sounds
or the
like
Llorona, for the like uh
Llorona.
we're like the, if you ever seen the Stranger Things show, that's kind of what we are.
My bad. I just had a little technical difficulty. Somebody's trying to give me a call right there. We
Yeah.
can't have a normal show anywhere, anytime. Like there's always got to be something that happens, especially when we start talking about this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That's when things tend to happen. So, which
Yeah, it's kind of funny how people say like stuff's not monitored. Why would they listen to you? Why stuff recorded? Blah blah blah. And I'll be like when me and Graham were doing the what's that called? You would not believe the shit that would happen when we would record. Like it was pretty wild. And I'll be like, but because you already know how we would be talking.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that don't surprise me one bit because you and Grim both get on some crazy stuff every now and then. So, which kind of leads me to my next, I don't know necessarily question, but talking point is that's interesting to me, bro. That like ever since I've known you, you've always kind of had this deeper, perception of like spirituality or like just some kind of intuitive thing about supernatural almost stuff. You know what I mean? And like that's kind of what ultimately led me to calling you Joel the Soul. You know what I mean? That was one of the things. So like it's kind of interesting to me to hear how like from a very young age you were experiencing stuff like this.
Yeah.
How it kind of came from your grandparents. That's a trip to me.
And then like another story I like to tell, a lot of people don't know either. Uh the night my grandpa died, um uh every Sunday he would buy us the, I don't know if you remember back in the day, you get the KFC bucket and we used to get like pay like $20. You got a dessert, you got a couple sides, you got the bucket of
Yeah,
chicken, right? So grandpa would buy us Sunday, we'd get together for Sunday, have Sunday dinner at grandpa's. It was about 9 o'clock. We left. 11:45 he died. But the odd part about this, what led to a lot of the spiritualism too, and I really like to tell people this stuff too, but the night he died, first off, my grandpa was a jerk. We did not get along with grandpa. He was mean, and we like pissing him off. He like whooping our ass. It was just the mischief with grandpa. So grandpa said, hey Joey, come over here and split this ginger ale with me. And I look at my mom and I'm like, and I look at my grandma. They're like, oh no, it's okay. Go ahead, Hito. Dude, it was a death sentence. You touch grandpa's ginger ale in his fridge. Like he used to keep a little of those wooden back scratchers. Whack. Get us good all the time. No.
that's
Yeah, he used to put up bowls of candy. He had this table in front of him, bowls of candy. Just because he knew us as kids would walk by and try to grab one, and he was fast, dude. He had that back strap. Whack! Get it right on top of your hand. Don't touch my candy. Fucking grandpa. Well, anyways, grandpa called me over there, right? And he's like,
yeah,
let's spit this ginger ale. So I was like, that's sketch. And then so we go over there and he starts telling me all this crazy like stuff. I didn't understand when I was small. But one thing that's always stuck with me was he said, you gotta pay attention to your senses and your how you are at night, because when you're at night you're more alert, your self-awareness is at its peak because it's dark and you can't see, so your hearing's at its best, your smells at its best, your other senses are at its best because your eyes are in the dark, and he said, and you can learn to see a lot better in the dark. And I'm like, the hell is this guy telling me? I was probably like 9, 10 years old. And I'm like,
yeah,
I had no idea like what he was talking about. But as I grew older, like I would like kind of like, I don't like to use the word meditate, but I would chill in the dark a lot, and I would
yeah.
analyze stuff, and I would listen to stuff, and I would like, and I would trip out because I was like, dang, you can hear better. Your eyes can see in the dark. You can do this, and stuff. And he just laid like all this knowledge on me. And I remember we went home and I literally like felt like I closed my eyes and he was dead. They announced him dead in his bed at his house. He passed away, but he never talked to none of us cousins or none of our grandkids like that. So it's always stuck with me, like to always pay attention to your senses and stuff, your smells, your awareness, your surroundings and everything, because you got to, it's what, like I was saying yesterday, it's like one of our gifts that we got, that God gave us, or the
Yeah.
creator. I just always felt like that.
So not only did he drop all this knowledge on you, but he did this right before he passed, and that was probably
Yeah.
the last significant conversation that he had, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it was the only conversation I ever had with my grandpa, like straight
That's the
up.
trick. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
and
That's
and
that would stick with me as well.
and I still, and then when he died, I have this memorabilia box over here. I kept that can, that ginger ale, because he let me take it home.
That's
So I always kept that can, and I have it, with me. But that was one thing I said about TRC too. Um, those years were rough because I would get close to somebody and they die. So there's like my uncle John. I named my
yeah.
son after him, Juanito. I've mentioned him in song. He was a really great influence on me. He's the one that taught me, like, get up, just live your day to the fullest. Just whatever idea you got in your head, just do it. And he hit me up and be like, hey Joey, let's go take pictures of the lake today. Hey Joey, let's go walk the mall today. Hey Joey, let's go do. And I was always like, doing, moving and doing stuff. But I didn't know at the time he was dying too. So I got real close to my uncle, and then he ended up passing away. And so, like I always said, like I kind of tear see all the people close to me were turning in to be heavenly. So they would pass away, but I still feel like even when someone passes away, I don't necessarily, I mean, it is sad, but I necessarily don't think it is a bad thing. I think it's like a worse thing because I hear them more. I hear my Aunt Joanne, I hear my uncle, I hear them, in different situations. And it's like I talk to them more on a spiritual type of level than physical. And then it's kind of cool because, like, when someone passed away, it's like, oh, now I could show them the ropes of like what I do daily because I feel like they're with me.
Your Aunt Joanne had passed also?
No, that was up there, years down the road. But she's been passed away though for about shit, about 6, 7 years now.
Because I actually met her. I knew her. She came and hung out with us for a while that one year, remember?
Yeah, Joanne was the shit, man. she
Yeah, she was a cool lady.
she taught me how to make pozole.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. So,
Yeah.
so that's, ever since we hooked up, our friendship, like we've had a lot of like commonalities, had very similar stories or pasts or different things that I felt like kind of connected us. And like now that I'm learning more about stuff with you, like it even makes more sense to me because it was very similar for me where people that I revered or people that I was looking up to or was close to or whatever ended up passing pretty young and pretty quickly and whatnot. It started with my dad and it kind of hasn't stopped. I've been losing people ever since. So it's a trip. I didn't really realize that it was like that for you.
Yeah, my Aunt Joanne's buried out here with my grandma. I always say I like to go to the cemetery because it's like a big party. Because I got my two grandmas there, my grandpa. I got a lot of fam there. And actually, I mean, in the future, I got this song on my new album. It's called like When I Die. I'm like, when I die, look to the sky, say hi, hope I got to fly. Like, but anyways, that song is gonna be shot in all these locations at the cemetery with all my dead homies, my dead family and stuff. And I figured,
Uh,
it'd be kind of cool to shoot at the graveyard and stuff like that and stuff.
well, damn, that's pretty crazy, and that kind of takes me to another thing. Like you have never really been afraid of that spirituality and of that other realm necessarily. And to be honest with you, like, I was kind of one of the babies of the crew. So, hearing some of this stuff, it kind of made me uneasy and made me uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Because, I kind of grew up a little bit differently. But the older I get, the more I appreciate some of what you're saying there and like what you're talking about. Like I kind of feel some of that as well. I don't necessarily have the same type of sentiments because
Yeah.
I still kind of get a little uneasy with stuff like that because I've had my own experiences that haven't always been as favorable. So but I appreciate it and I get where you're coming from with it, and now it kind of helps me understand you a little bit better. So I appreciate that. But before we go any further, can you for all of our listeners, I think you might have broke it down on the Dro Bro show, one episode we might have done, but I would like for you to kind of break it down for the people about TRC and how that name came about, because you said it was called the Hot
Oh, okay.
Springs initially.
Okay. So it's kind of a real cool historical town. So way back in the day, they were built the town by Elephant Butte, but then they decided to build a dam and a lake there. So my great grandpa, my dad's mom's dad, Jose, which Trujillo, which I was named down. I'm the third. Um, my dad was my dad was named after him, and then me. Well, anyways, he helped build the dam. And then check this out, funny, kind of fun thing that you would kind of get a kick out of. But I always wear, I always wear my hat sideways, like just a little crooked, not so straight. The bill, you do that too.
Yeah.
And I looked at these old pictures of my grandpa Jose, and he always wore his cowboy hat like that, fucking tilted and shit. And I said, "What the
Really?
fuck?" Yeah, this is like back in the early 1900s. You know what I mean? And I was just like, "Oh, that's a trip." So, anyways, they built the dam, and then they built the town called Hot Springs, because back in the day, the natives. So the rumor is, like, I don't know, but supposedly the whole underneath the town around here is all hot springs. So if you buy like a property out here, you can drill for like hot springs and legit open a business and everything through the hot spring, because it is very famous for hot springs. They have, when you go downtown, there's tons of hot springs all over. Like it's everybody. I personally hate hot water, so I don't go. But it's supposedly really good for your body, all the minerals and all of that and stuff. Like Colorado has a lot of them too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's supposed to be like healing waters. I'm surprised you're not up.
Yeah, yeah. I hate hot water, but there's places, and then plus, like most people like to go to the hot springs with their chick, kind of hang out. But we have this cool one too. But I just take my. What am I supposed to take? My inflatable doll? They don't let me in there with my chick.
I
but
don't even I don't even know
but
what to say to that.
but anyways, uh, it was hot springs for a long time, right? Then this game show came, and they to play tribute to the game show, and trip this, and it's kind of funny because this year we have Fiesta Days, which is like Cinco de Mayo weekend,
Yeah.
and it's been going on for like 75 years or something crazy like that, right? But they're gonna bring back the Truth or Consequences show, and they're gonna do an actual taping and a show of it and stuff, and put it up this year for the so many 25-year 30, I don't know how many year anniversary it is, but yeah, they're gonna actually tape the show again. So that's why I got named to Truth or Consequences, because they named it after this show that they had in the early 1960s or some I don't know, black and white TV days, something like that. But that's
And it
what got the name to switch. Huh? What was that?
it was filmed there, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was filmed here and everything. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty.
But
So
it was funny. Uh Back in the day when I was a kid, they told me that it was called Truth or Consequences because there was so much mob and drug running through here that they would bust so many people, and they would tell them, you either tell the truth or you face the consequences. So that was like a little like rumor like in town, but that is well known to this day. We got a border check right outside. They bust like tons of drug smuggling through this little spot, like you would not believe. Like, yeah, it's pretty wild that all the stuff that goes on in this town for being a small town of that nobody knows.
yeah. Now, see, like like I talked about in my interview, I'm a big wrestling fan. So the first time I ever heard of the town Truth or Consequences was from Cactus Jack, from Mick Foley, because that's where they built him from. So
Yeah.
when they talked about I don't remember if they talked about it on the show or if I looked it up or whatever it was, but that's the reasoning that I found, is that there was a lot of crime or whatnot, you know what I mean? And that's why, excuse me, that's why I got the name. So the first time I ever heard about this whole, excuse me, I'm sorry, I got the hiccups. First time I ever heard about like this game show was from you.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting, bro. So
Yeah, it used to be so downtown uh there's Geronimo Springs Museum, but there's an act they closed it, but the rumor is um it was supposedly they have a Geronimo Spring hot spring there. And when I was a kid, the water used to run up. They had like a little fountain, but they've closed it now. But rumor was that supposedly that was Geronimo's spring. That's why they named it after Geronimo Springs downtown and stuff. But
how about that? Pretty cool.
in that museum, uh, it has the whole history. It's kind of interesting to walk through the whole thing, and it tells you it all. It's pretty wild. Yeah, I was like, what? It's pretty interesting stuff. And then I saw my grandpa in there, my great grandpa. Hey, what the heck? He was building a dam. That's crazy. Like,
You're like, damn.
yeah, because, you hear the stories from your family, but like when you see it in actual newspaper articles and stuff, you're like, oh, that's kind of wild. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, more legitimizes the stories, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So New Mexico's dope like that, bro, where I feel like it has all kinds of like little hidden gems like that. And we talked about some of my interview yesterday as far as like the religious and spiritual things go, which kind of leads me to my next point. You said that you were born and raised Catholic. So did you have did you have like a lot of church exposure or anything like that as a kid? And if you did, like where did that come from?
My dad and my grandma, my dad's family. Um, my family, my mom and them never kind of made me go to church. Now, my dad, on the other hand, made me go to church a lot. And he was a Catholic. They were all hardcore Catholics. There's one big Catholic church in this town. And my great grandma lived right across the street. So we'd get out of church and then we'd go to great grandma's that was cooking all the food and stuff. So we have Sunday lunch slash dinner. But yeah, my dad was real pretty hardcore on it for a long time. He'd make me go to all the masses and stuff. Every time he came down, he'd get mad because we'd go to um like midnight mass, but it wasn't like at midnight, but and we pray like the rosaries and stuff, and I'd be falling asleep, and so he'd buy me like candy and gum and stuff, and he'd be like, just chew your gum and stay awake, don't be falling asleep in church, and then down the road, my grandma Maria, which is my mom's mom, when I was older, like an adult already, because I've bounced back and forth here in Denver a few times,
Yeah.
but my grandma she would bribe me. Hey, you go to church, I'll take you to dinner, to lunch and stuff afterwards. You just go to church with me because she didn't want to go alone. So I'd go with my grandma's all the time, and I'd go with her and stuff to the church. But the sad part nowadays, and I always say this stuff, but is I only go to church for funerals anymore. All the last few times I've been to church is just all for funerals. And yeah, my
You
last
better
time
do
I went, yeah, and my last time I went was up in Santa Fe, um, with oh, they have some beautiful churches up that way, and I went to this Catholic church. It was pretty cool, and yeah, my cousin had a big turnout. There was a ton of people there. It was pretty cool, but I say I always want I need to stop going to church just for funerals, and just go. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah, you were interviewing me, you were saying about how you try to make a point to not just pray like when it's bad stuff that's happening. So
yeah,
and I think that that's another good point, for you to also make as far as going to church goes. Like you should make a point to not just go for those kind of things. There's a mass every week every day. Actually, most Catholic churches have a daily mass. So I encourage you to go back there and see what's cracking with it. Maybe you might feel a little something, because I know every time I go, bro, especially when I don't want to go, like something will happen where it's like it was something just specifically for me to hear. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I pay attention to all those kind of signs. So I encourage you to go and do that same thing,
It's
because I know how powerful it is.
it's kind of funny. Trinity goes to church almost every Sunday with her and her friends. And it's a
You better
church like
go.
right down the street. Yeah. She's like pretty dedicated to it too. And I'm like, and that was totally on her own. Like I had nothing to do with that. Like because one of the things is I try not to do with my kids is if they ask me for advice, I'll give it to them, but I try not to influence them. So like growing up, I just felt like shit was crammed down me all the time. Yeah, this, that. No, And with my dad, he was real strict. He was like not like military. He was just like it was. Man, he like when I smoked weed. Whoa, shit, dude! I got in a lot of fights with my dad, like fist fights with my dad for smoking weed. But he always was strong, and he just showed me how powerful he was. I tried to swing on him, but I never got to get him good.
So that kind of takes me to my next thing too. Is like, when I first met you, you were kind of estranged from your dad's. So is that kind of what led to stuff like that?
No, no, not that. Straight up, it was just his wife.
Oh,
The like yeah, like I mean, just to kind of sum it up, I just didn't get along with her. I mean, I get along with her now. We've grown and everything, but what I feel, yeah, I just kind of keep my dad usually comes and he'll visit with just me. You know what I mean? Like he comes down here just him, but he
yeah.
has a wife and he has a son, kinda, and yeah, they you know, he's he's his pride and joy. So I'm
Mm.
like the black sheep, you know what I mean? Like for not just him, but I kind of feel like that with both my parents but my mom not so much. My mom, I see her daily, talk to her all the time. She's like my therapist and everything, but my dad and my relationship, it was just like two different people, and then like he just did stuff growing up that I just like, you know what I mean? I would always go to Jeremiah's house because I was like, hey man, can I sleep on your couch? I hear my dad having sex with that girl again in the room right next to me and stuff like that, and I drove me, I was like, nah. And like even to this day, that's one of my rules. I'll never bring a chick and all that around my kids, my daughters and stuff like that, where having sex with them in the next room where everybody could hear it and stuff. I just thought that was just disgusting. And I feel like every we're all adults and humans. We do have sex, but it ain't for you to know and everybody out. Hey, woo, yeah, you know what I mean. Like I just and then your kids, nah. So that honestly is the real reason that led to our fallout. And then there was like a few things too. It was just like, hey dad, I want to join the military, dude. Like I think it'd be cool to fly jets. Like I was all for that. Nah, man, you should just drop out and work. So I dropped out and work, and it's fuck, dude. I still wish I would have flown jets, like. But my dad, like, he didn't encourage me, I felt like he encouraged me to fuck up more, And then like
Yeah.
nowadays, he's so proud of his new fake kid, like. So it's like it's kind of hard, real rocky still, Basically, I try to talk to him for my kids, so they know. But I had like cool grandpas like growing up, but they're not haven't been a cool grandpa to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit to when you got here to Denver, and you told me yesterday that you went to Huron Middle for a little while, and then you went to North Glen High. So is that where you met Jeremiah? Was it at North Glen, or how did that
Yeah.
happen?
Northland.
Mhm. Did
And
you meet him
so
first, or did you
what
meet
what
Sarah first?
I met Sarah first. So what happened was I sixth grade here in New Mexico, my stepdad I passed. I was already fucking up and raising hell, speaking my mind, not taking shit. My stepdad was like, you need to stay back 6th grade. So they held me back a 2nd grade. So I was in 6th grade again. Then it got worse. I clicked up with one of my homies, started fucking gang banging pretty much, started jumping people, whooping ass, like getting in more trouble. So 7th grade comes around and they're like, your ass is going you're moving with your dad. Cause I never thought I would leave my mom. And
Yeah.
I remember this like perfect, at the time I got jumped in. I got jumped by like 9 people. I knew how to fight, I knew how to take punches and stuff. So I wasn't really scared of my stepdad no more. My stepdad would kind of whoop my ass a lot and different things. And so the last issue I got in his face and we were both about to box because I wasn't scared of him no more. I was like stood up, cracking my knuckles, like getting ready. And then my mom came in and broke us up. And I'll never forget, I said, you're gonna leave this house before I do because my mom my mom never throw me out. But what happened the next week? My mom threw me out. I had to move up here with Denver with my dad. And truth be told, at the time I was hurt about it, but it was the greatest thing I ever did because going to Denver was like one of the greatest things in my life. Like I'm glad all my friends that stayed here, jail, drug addicts, dead, like what the, like a lot of my friends, and I mean, I've had a lot of people die in Denver, but a lot of my friends are doing pretty good up in Denver, for the most part. But like, so yeah, so I moved up to Denver, 7th grade with my pops. I had to move up there, and then I came up to Denver like trying to gang bang. And I got in fights with everybody. But then I started getting down with the West Side Bloods and then the West Sides in Lakewood and like, start learning the streets and stuff. And then once I got to high school, I used to be with this girl, Gina. And her family were the dopest people, bro. They took me to Vegas. They took me to California. It coolest people, real nice family. They had this big SUV, like it was cool. And then I seen Sarah, and there was just something about her, man. I don't know. I already been with Gina for 2 years, and I loved Gina. Like she was cool people, and I just caught my eye with her, and Sarah just was like an ass the whole time, like just cold shouldering me, brushing me off, like fuck you, like. So I kept seeing her and her friend. I I worked at McDonald's on 104th and Huron when I was like 16. I had a job, I already had my car, I had my own car, I had my own shit. Like then I went and worked at Chick-fil-A over there at the Westminster Mall back in the day stuff. And I used to see Sarah and her friend Valerie, mall rats, dude, always walking almost every day. So I'd say, hey, come over here, I'll hook you up with food. So I started bribing her with food. So that was my way in, you know. But, hey,
Yeah.
what do they say? The quickest to the man, your tummy. That's how you find love. So her and Valerie, I'd hook them up and I'd be, hey, let's hang out, let's go cruise, let's go smoke. So we would all hang out, like, the 3 of us. And then Jeremiah started, well, Sarah and them would always go to Jeremiah's because he always had the weed. And then Jeremiah had the house right down the street from Northglenn at the Papos. And for those of you who don't know, Papo, that's Jeremiah's grandpa. But
Yeah.
anyways, we call him Papo. We all know him as Papo. But anyways, uh they would all hang out at Jeremiah's. So then I was like, what? I went over there. And at the time I wasn't really smoking weed or nothing yet. And
Yeah.
dude, like I kind of touched on it yesterday, but like I said, how they baptized me, man, we would get ripped, bro. Like we would buy a quarter pound of the swag. Back in the day, we had swag, which was seeds and nasty brick weed. Not like how nice it is nowadays. Like and
Don't know nothing about the swag.
yeah, dude. So we'd be ripping out of the gravity bong. This fool would make a fucking the gallon jug gravity bongs and I throw up off the weed and they'd be, like, and we would get tore up. So like I just fell in love with weed. It just became like part of my lifestyle. So like, yeah, I met Sarah first, and then but it was Jeremiah was like right then. You know what I mean? I met him like right away and stuff like. But yeah,
So tell me how this love blossomed with Sarah. Like you bribed her and you got to kick in and started smoking weed. But when did the
dog,
spark start to fly?
dog. In the beginning, like right away, while with me and stuff, I had to bribe, I had to win her love. No, just kidding. Hey, peep this, the fuck, and Leola, her grandma, she wouldn't just let Sarah go and hang out with me. And
She was
we'd have the Bible study. I watch soap operas. I learned how to play solitaire from her. We'd hang out with Leola like a lot, like, and then she'd be like, okay, you guys can go for 2 hours. Like we'd have to be at the house for like 4 hours, and then we could go run around for 2 hours or something. You know what I mean? And but yeah, in the beginning we'd have to I read a lot of Bible verses. And then
Leola was always very sweet to me. She was a really good woman to me. Because I was always kicking it with Ashley and all them. You know what I mean? In fact, I think she said one time that she kind of wanted, me to be with Ashley. I think, I can't remember how it all happened or what exactly was said or whatever, but I remember her saying something like that one time, and that's kind of where I was at in those days. I was all in love and whatever myself. So, I was like, oh, really? And it was kind of one of those things. But I remember
yeah.
when she passed, bro, like it was such a sad, sad day when she passed. And I know the whole family really kind of started to fall apart a little bit. She was one of the glue of the family there.
It's kind of weird. I notice it now more, but it's like when the grandmas pass away, the families kind of fall apart. And
Yep.
I've seen it with my both sides of my family. Yeah, and it kind of sucks, but like, I miss the times when grandma was alive and we were all together. Now
It's kind of my family as well. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't even remember the last time me and my family gotten together, like on my mom's side. My dad's
Mm,
side's a little different. We try to do family reunions every summer and stuff. But a lot of my dad's families has died off because like we mentioned Joanne earlier, it's
yeah.
been a family curse, bro. We're all alcoholics. We all I've struggled. I don't like to say struggle, but I've drank a lot, but like we were saying earlier, like you're like if I want to quit weed, I could quit weed. I've anything I
Yeah.
could quit it. I've quit everything before. I've went back, quit, I've done it all. But alcohol has been a big killer of my family. Like a lot of my family has died from alcohol, from drinking and stuff. And yeah, it's pretty wild. But I always say those demons kind of haunt my dad's side of the family with the alcohol, and I still see it continue too. Like it's pretty wild. But like me, I have a glass of wine. I kind of slowed down a lot from my drinking from when I used to do. But you know,
Absolutely. I mean, you named your record label Drunken Style Records. Like that was
uh,
freaking technical difficulty there. That was mom calling. I'm gonna have to call her back. But that had named your label after, so it was obviously something that was a pretty significant vice for you. You know what I mean? And
but I
and to you now is kind of a trip because there was a while there where it did kind of seem like that was just kind of gonna be how it was. And to see how you've kind of made this transformation into where it's like a very minuscule part of your life at this point is pretty remarkable, and I think is commendable, and I'm proud of you for it.
yeah, I've like there's a few people that have witnessed. I like to try to say like I've lived multiple lives already. There was my time with Sarah, which I was with her for 9.5 years, which was she blessed me with 3 kids. Great mom. But it's sad to see how the roads have turned for her. But we all make our own choices, and there's that saying, "You made your bed, now lie in it." So
Well,
she
we
that's her
both
choice.
know how special of a person she is, though, and I believe that she could turn it around and make it come back and be more involved in all of those kind of things. At least that's what I believe. You
Well,
know, I don't know what you're at in your
it's
relationship, but
but there's never what's the saying? It's never too, how do you say, too late to change, you know?
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I mean, look at me, like I feel like I'd be changing a lot, you know, like I shared a picture the other day, uh I think it was like 2013 or something, but I had a cigarette in my mouth. And I was like, damn, this is kind of weird to see now to me. But for years since I could steal them from my stepdad, cigarettes has been a part of my life since I was 10, 11 years old. I loved cigarettes, you know, like that was
Yeah.
my thing. But now April. Oh, this month marks my 6 years, buddy.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. That's dope. I wish I could say that. I did
Uh,
really good for quite some time, but like how we said in my interview, life be throwing curveballs at you. So unfortunately, I've fallen and stumbled quite a few times. So I can't say no 6 years, that's for sure.
I have to tell you what though, like I said earlier, I've quit a lot of things in my life. Cigarettes is really hard. I'll see like somebody in a movie. Oh, dude, it looks so good. I'm like, oh, I want a cigarette, man. Look at how he just took that drag, and I just, like it's all in my brain. I'm envisioning it. I'm tasting that menthol, and and then I'm like, hey, shut up, fool. Go smoke a joint, man. You don't smoke cigarettes no more. I'm like, fuck. Oh, that's right. And I
That's
and I gotta
awesome.
and I gotta thank weed, man. At first it was kind of rough because every time I wanted a cigarette, I smoke a joint. But I was walking around too high, man. So I had to learn to regulate it a little and everything. But
Yeah.
I every time I wanted to hit a cigarette, I would just hit my vape. And
Yeah.
I know it's not the same, but it was, it's a little rough at first. But my buddy told me he used to work at a smoke shop, and I like to tell people this because they don't kind of understand. But he said, hey, if you want to quit cigarettes, you're gonna have to go to natural cigarettes to detoxify from the chemicals that are in cigarettes, and then you can get off the cigarettes easier. So I was smoking American spirits for a while, and those things are strong, man. Like, and they're expensive. And so, I just one day I just decided to test myself. I said, hey, let's see how long I could go without smoking a cigarette. And I just kind of, my last pack, I say, let's do one cigarette a day, and I would just slowly, and then yeah, I just kind of stopped. I just kind of put it in my mind, but like I said, it's 6 years, and I'll still see somebody in a movie take a drag, and oh man, I'd be like, I think about it all the time and shit.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
it's kind of funny.
Are you battling animals over there too?
Hmm.
So
Damn animals, they always want to get on TV, or trying to steal my shine.
so tell me how that happened. How did you turn into the crazy cat lady? What happened?
Oh God. Oh, this is a pretty funny story. So we moved into this place over here. It used to be my cousin's place. They built a new house. They moved out. I rent this place. And then Aaliyah, we had a cat already. And then there was this outside cat that used to hang out and stuff. She was like this calico, real pretty colorful cat. And she was over here, and then she would just be outside. So we kind of give her some food, just a stray cat we kind of had outside. Well, we started to notice that this cat was pretty big. We said, she's kind of looking a little prego. And
Yeah.
so she was pregnant. So she was getting real big and stuff. So then we started buying her food and stuff. We felt bad. She was pregnant, blah blah blah. Um we 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 the cat we see the cat in the on the Facebook posted in the dog pound page or whatever, stray cat we found, blah blah blah. But we look in her belly's gone. You know, we didn't see her for like a couple of days, and she kind of got locked up or whatever, and she had no belly. They said, "Oh, we think that she's has kittens because her nipples were leaking milk or whatever."
Mhm.
So we're like, "Oh shit, what happened to the kittens?" Because she's locked up. That's another story too. So it was like hard to get the cat back, and then they're like, "You need $80 to get her back." Blah blah blah. We get the $80. Like, oh, we already put the cat. Someone else adopted them to nurse these other kittens. So we're like, well, what about her kittens? What's up with her kittens? You know. So we didn't know where they were at, right? And then so back to Aaliyah, she has this bedroom. Well, had this bedroom, and she said, "Dad, my is this is Sunday, right?" She goes, "Dad, come in here." And then she goes, "Listen." You know, we're all quiet listening. She goes, "Do you hear cats or am I crazy? I've been hearing this shit all weekend and I think I'm going fucking nuts, you know?" Because she kept hearing these little cat sounds. And I'm listening. I go, "Holy shit, it's the kittens." You know, and I could hear them. They were in the wall, dude. And so we had to it was kind of crazy, like how the cat hit him. So there was a hole underneath in the crawl space that led up to the bathtub, and it had tile all around the bathtub, but it was hollow between the tile and the bathtub. So the kittens were in this little section in there way back. But it was like I always like, you know, because I believe in spiritual or whatever, but I just think it was kind of odd. She stuck the cats like somewhere where if something was to happen to her, we would hear them. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like odd, like how they were, you know? So we were just, I always just thought that was kind of weird, you know? So we're hearing them in the wall, and I go, "Oh shit." So I hit up my landlord. "Hey, dude, I hear cats in the wall. Is it okay if I cut some drywall out and try to get them?" So they're they're there. We cut it open. Oh shit, there's kittens in there. Three of them. Oh man. We get them. They never seen humans around. These things are clawing the crap out of us. They're starving. You know, they've been starving for the last couple. Mom hasn't been gone for a couple of days. So we pull three out. And then we say, "Wait, I still hear them." Here comes another two. So we're at five. Put them out. I still hear another one. There was another one under the run, on the very bottom, underneath the crawl space. He fell through that hole, and he was down there at the bottom of the crawl space. So then we got all of them, and then we basically had to bottle feed them because they were still on the they were still kittens, you know. So we bottle fed them, and then like they just kind of, I have like three that are outside and I have like three that are indoor. Because one of the things everybody was like, I was like, "What do you because there's a lot of stuff down here like tarantulas, rattlesnakes,
Mhm.
scorpions, you know, there's a lot of stuff." So I said, I always asked around like, "Hey, what can kill all that? You know, what kills that?" Well, you know, and they'd always say, "Get cats," because a lot of people have cats, you know. "Get
Mhm.
cats, get cats." So sure as shit, man, these cats, they kill everything. I've seen like tarantulas out there, like all kinds of stuff. I don't see no spiders, no moths, no nothing in my house. So they do their job. So I feed them and keep them around right now, you know. And then I got three outside and three inside. But my three inside ones, like my fluffy one right here, he's a diva, man. These little turds, big babies. He's a big baby. But I never had cats in my life. I never been a cat person, like
Yeah,
ever.
it like still trips me out. Even hearing this story trips me out because I still can't even really picture it. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy to me. So
It was it wa-
we're actually coming down to like our last, 10, 15 minutes or so on our part one episode here. So I kind of want to get into when you and Sarah started becoming parents and when you guys started having babies. Like what happened around that time and when did all that kind of start changing?
so like Sarah was a freshman. I was a 10th grader. We just weren't really into uh we weren't really into school, you know?
Mhm.
So we both dropped out.
Mhm.
Uh her mom just got out from serving some time. She went to go live with her mom. I was not staying at my house with my dad and his bullshit. So me and Sarah pretty much would stay over there at Sharon's all the time. Sarah ended up getting pregnant. It's kind of crazy too, cause like when that shit went down, bro, everybody tried to split us apart. Nobody was like for me and Sarah staying together when she was pregnant. I remember my dad saying, "Just pay child support. You don't want that in your life." And I'm like, "Yeah, like you did me, motherfucker. Like fuck you." You
Yeah.
know, because one of the things I didn't mention earlier, but was kind of my morals or whatever. Growing up, I didn't have the perfect family and stuff, but I remember when I was a kid, I'd be crying and going to bed and I'd be praying, like, if I ever have my own family, I want to do it better and I want to be there for my kids and I'll be there daily and this, and I used to say it. And Sarah was the same way. She didn't grow up that cool with her stepdad. She had a worse situation than I did. And so when we met, we both kind of we wanted a family with each other. We believed that we wanted a family with each other because we both were brought up from like we didn't like how we were brought up with our family, like so we're like we want a mom and a dad. We're gonna raise our kids different. We're gonna do different from what our parents did. So
Yeah.
when she got pregnant, we were happy as hell. And everybody was trying to split us up. So we ran away to New Mexico. We came down here and lived with my grandma. So right after she had the baby, we well, dude, it was a chain of events though that kind of fucking led up to that shit. But the night we had the baby was wild, bro. Like, that's why I asked if it was on Kofax, but I think it was St. Anthony's that used to be on Kofax or something. But that's where Isaiah was born at.
Hmm.
And the the night. So people say I love telling this story, but people say the miracle of life. You should watch the birth. It's a beautiful thing. Blah blah blah. Man, it was the most traumatizing thing I ever seen in my life. I was so fucked up. I still fucked up about that shit, man. Like and and the so it was a stressful night. Okay, what? So Sarah's contracting, right? We're at the Papos. She's French braiding my hair to keep her mind off of her contracting. She needs distractions, right? So she says, "Let me French braid your hair." I had longer hair. Bro, I've never had my hair French braided. That shit hurt like a motherfucker, man. My head was so tender and everything, like from her pulling on it, doing it, but I was just trying to keep her distracted. So, anyways, we go to the hospital. I'm like, I need some weed. This is about 11 o'clock at night. I need weed. I'm not going to be able to make it through the night. I need at least a dime bag. So I hit up my boy, Mad One, Javon, and I said, "Hey, bro, I need some weed." He said, "All right, come over here real quick." He was right down the street on Federal. We were like on Colfax and like Kipling or Sheridan or something. I don't know. But anyways, go over there with me and Candace are going. Me and Little Bit go to pick up some weed. Javon was staying with his grandma at this old folks apartment thing. These motherfuckers call the cops on us, bro. We're outside. He's just meeting with me. Candace gets arrested for curfew. She's only like 12, 13 years old at the time. You know what I mean? I said, dude, she has to go to the hospital. She's gotta go to the hospital. We're having a baby. The cop's like, whatever. And I go, no, no, no. I'm fucking serious. You know what I mean? Like, so the cop drives her to the hospital and he says, "You go up there and you get her mom and you tell her to come down here and get her daughter." I gotta go. I gotta go up there with Leola and Sharon, with Sarah helping her breathing, and the baby's about to come, and Candace is downstairs in handcuffs in the car. So I'm like, so I walk in and Sharon's like, where you guys been? You know what I mean? Like time's already went by, and I'm like, Because I don't want to say nothing in front of Yola because Yola's gonna snap shit on me, you know. And so so I come over and I go, they arrested Candace. You know, I'm whispering in her ear. They whisper, they arrested Candace. We gotta go downstairs and get her so she can be here with the baby. What? What the fuck? And she already hated cops because she just came out of jail. So she all the pissed off that she was about that, it didn't go on me. It went right to that cop, dude.
Yeah.
Oh man, she went down there and fucking rang his ass so bad, dude. And I was like, holy shit. I felt bad for the cop, dude. I thought he was gonna cry or something because she fucking went off on him. So then so then we go up there and we're all in the delivery room, right? And I'm like, so they're like, oh, I'm like, all right, cool, yeah, I'll hold Sarah's hand, I'll help you breathe. Leola and Sharon say, oh, no, 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 you're down there holding the legs because they needed two people to hold the legs.
Yeah.
So that's me and Candace, a little bit, you know, and bro, I seen everything. I was up there and I'll never forget like Isaiah's when his head popped out, you know, fucking fluids are flying. His head's out, and fluids are like this all over, like and I'm like, you know, I'm like freaking out, like trying not to I'm not trying not to faint, dude. I'm like, like it's holy shit. Sarah already had her epidural, so I look up at her, and she's like this in La La Land, doing her breathing and shit. And I'm like, I'm like traumatized. And I look at Candace and she's all fucked up. She's only like 12, 13 years old. She's all fucking traumatized, never seen. And then like, you know, and then Isaiah comes out, right? And then they pull that freaking the rest of it out, the egg and the stuff, and splat it in this pan. And I'm like, oh, you know, I'm all like mortified. And then they wrap Isaiah and they say, hey, you want to hold your baby? I said, fuck no, clean all that shit off of him. I ain't trying to hold him.
Oh, that's awesome. That's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, that shit was like I said, it was crazy. Like, you know, just like the whole experience. And like, I always crack up because everybody's like, oh, the miracle birth is so, you know, but that first one, man, that was rough, bro. I was like, I mean, I seen them all. I was up and close to personal, all of them. But the other ones just kind of came out. Yeah. And then not only that, dude, right before his head popped out, they're like, oh, we got to cut her open more. I'm like, huh? They fucking took some scissors and I said, "Oh my god, dude!" And they cut open Sarah more, and I'm looking up at her, and she's numb. You know, she don't feel nothing. She don't see what's all going on. And I'm like, you know, oh my god, you know. And then I say his head. He's like, look like a little alien. And I'm like,
Oh, gosh.
oh hell no.
Well, that's a crazy, crazy birthing story right there. Thanks for sharing
Yeah,
that with all of us. I'm sure y'all appreciated that as much as I do. But
yeah,
I
I'm
think that's
telling
a
you.
stopping point for our first episode. We're already coming up on an hour and 3. So y'all stay tuned. We got part 2 coming. Stat.
Stat.
For more reviews, shorts, and interviews from the Vicious Network, check out The Vicious One